Welcome to the Workamper Show, brought to you by Workamper.com. This podcast helps you discover how to finance your RV travel dreams. Each one of our episodes will introduce you to people who are already living the RV lifestyle or to work camping opportunities all around the U.S. You'll also learn how to hit the road the right way and make the most of every opportunity. Now let's turn over today's show to your host, Greg Gerber.
On today's episode, I'm talking with a gentleman who works as a business coach, podcaster, and author who's been full-time RVing since 2019. Today's episode is sponsored by Workamper News. Much more than just a job listing website, when you put the tools of this professional service into action, you'll find out just how easy it can be to turn your work camping dreams into reality. A Workamper membership opens the door to a one-stop shop for all things work camping. Being the original resource for work camping, you'll find the largest number of job listings, be able to connect with a community of work campers, and view resources compiled by experts who've been able to enjoy the RV lifestyle for many years. If you're serious about leading a successful and enjoyable work camping lifestyle, then membership is for you. Join today at www.workamper.com. Embark on new adventures today with the support of Workamper News behind you. Tim Winders and his wife embrace the RV lifestyle as a way to travel without the hassle of packing and unpacking. They've customized their 40-foot Class A motorhome into a functional home and workspace, which allows them to work remotely from virtually anywhere. Tim shares how they live, work, and explore without ever having worked what others might call a traditional work camping job. One of Tim's favorite things about the RV lifestyle is the ability to avoid tourist crowds and discover places at a much slower pace. Whether it's the Black Hills of South Dakota, the Arizona desert in the winter, or the stunning coastlines of Oregon, Tim and his wife prefer to hang out in each destination long enough to feel like locals. To tell us more about what prompted his family to embrace the RV lifestyle and how they support themselves on the road, please welcome Tim Winders to the show. Thanks for joining me today, Tim. I really appreciate your time. How long have you been RVing?
We have been RVing. We've just celebrated our 6-year anniversary just a few months ago. We started right at the end of 2019 or January, really like January 1st of 2019 was our beginning. And so we've been doing it for a little while now. We're almost pros. Maybe we know what we're doing now.
So you jumped in right before COVID and everybody else followed suit.
Yeah, it was real interesting. We kind of looked at ourselves after COVID hit. Everybody was probably asking questions and wondering what's going on. And we looked at each other. We said, we had a spiritual aspect to it. We felt like the Lord was instructing us to do this somewhat. And what's interesting is we looked at each other. We said, we're already living a socially distanced lifestyle and everybody's scrambling on how to do it. And we're already doing it here in our little 39, 40-foot Class A motor coach. So we felt like it was divine and our steps were ordered. But anyway, so yeah, we were before everyone. We watched everybody come in and now we're watching some people migrate out and a different group kind of start doing it.
What kind of motorhome did you select?
We purchased it's a Class A gas. It's right at 40 feet, a smidge less. And it is a Gulfstream Sun Voyager. And Gulfstreams do not make Class A's anymore. After '08, like a lot of companies, they stopped doing it and all that. And Greg, I got to tell you, there's a reason we got this one. When we felt compelled to move into an RV, we were finishing up Bible school up in the mountains of Colorado. My wife was spending some time in prayer. We'll go ahead and get spiritual here on this one. And she felt like the Lord said, y'all are ready to travel again, but you don't want to pack and unpack like you were doing before you came to Bible school. We were house sitting and still traveling around and all that, which is another story. But she goes, you just don't like packing and unpacking. She goes, I think you should get an RV. And Greg, she hesitated before she brought it up to me. And she brought it up because the joke is that I couldn't even spell RV. I don't know anything about RVs. I grew up in the city in Atlanta. I was never a camper and she wasn't much either. And so this would have been in like spring of 18, I believe. And so by summer, we had purchased this rig. We call him Theo, that bought him sight unseen and went down to Sarasota, Florida, picked him up. drove him across state to a house we were house sitting, gutted the interior, and moved in later that year. So that's how it worked out. We wanted to customize it. This kind of feeds into the conversation. We needed some separate living spaces. I needed some office space. My wife needed some office space. We wanted to be able to separate out. She was actually working a corporate job out of Silicon Valley during that time, a remote job. And I had my business coaching and training and things like that. So we looked for this one because it specifically divided up a few little spots.
Okay. So each of you have your separate space that you can retreat to for work or just when you need time alone?
About as much as retreat as you can in 39 feet. Oddly enough, we're recording in the middle of this. You can see it, others that are listening in. And I have a passenger seat office. I'm looking over to my left here. That was my original office, and I've got a curtain and everything. And we actually took the passenger seat out of our RV for me to create that office, small little cubbyhole office space. And so, yeah, it was a little space there.
Does your wife have to stand when you're moving from place to place?
No, we just strap her to the roof like they did grandma in vacation. No, we actually, she has our vehicle. Oh. And what we decided to do, I did a lot of this research and all that. We were going to tow, but we would have to get another vehicle. And we originally thought, oh, we want to get a fifth wheel because those are so nice, but then we'd need to buy a truck. And we just wanted to get into RVing with as low of a capital expenditure as we could, just to see if it might be something for us. And so we got quite the deal on this 06. Only had 20-something thousand miles on it. We knew we were going to gut the inside, so we weren't that concerned about the way it looked. And spent a little over $30,000 for it. And then we put a decent amount more in just to fix it up and make it our own. And but our decisions were this, Greg, because we knew we weren't going to be traveling like weekend warriors, like every week. We weren't going to be like picking up, putting down, picking up, putting down. We just made the decision that I would drive the rig. My wife would follow me in our vehicle that we had. And we would just see how that worked. We've been doing that now for going on 7 years. And on average, we have 8 to 10 travel days per year. And you know what? It's fine. I listen to my stuff in the rig. She listens to her audiobooks, and I listen to podcasts like Workamper and other things like that. And it actually works fine for us. And so I think you just got to find what works well for you.
It saves a lot of money because you don't have to buy the towing equipment, right?
And I actually think it saves two other things that sometimes it's hard to quantify. Time. I watch people and they go, oh, I've got this towing thing and it only takes me 10 minutes. And I'm going, you're kind of lying. It does not take 10 minutes to hook up, unhook, all that stuff. So maybe 30 minutes. So maybe an hour hooking up, unhooking, even though I've seen people that it's taken them half a day, truthfully. But there's also this other thing. There's this peace of mind that you can't really gauge when you're carrying your vehicle or you're towing your vehicle behind you and you've got another 15, 20 feet that you've got to account for. You got another mechanical piece that's attached, rocks thing, all that kind of stuff. And it's just kind of like another peace of mind thing for me. And that's important for me, this stage. And so it works well for us. I know there's people, if you've got comments or threads, people are going to be yelling and screaming, oh, I can't believe you do that. You're more gas and all that kind of stuff. I actually have tracked it. It is not that much more as far as an expense either, as there's expenses with towing and tires and anyway, stuff like that. So anyway, that's our rhythm.
So you only travel 7 days a year. That's cool. So you must pick a region and go to the region.
We do. We really enjoy staying places a minimum of a month and sometimes up to 3 to 4. You and I are recording right now, and I'm an hour and a half south of you in central Arizona where we've wintered. And we'll stay here until it warms up, and then we'll migrate north and visit grandkids and go up to South Dakota. And we'll probably stay up there a month or two before we probably head months. So we like staying in places. That kind of goes back to a time thing. I'm not one that's big on packing, unpacking, setting up, unsetting up, and all that kind of stuff. It's just, I kind of want to get somewhere, enjoy the area. One of the reasons, Greg, is we found out we're not good tourists. We're good at hanging out in places and exploring, but we'd rather explore on a Tuesday.
Yes.
Instead of buzzing in on a Friday, setting up, putting the grills and all out. And if people do this, it's fine. And then seeing everything on Saturday, Sunday, and then Sunday night, you're packing it up and Monday morning you're out. That doesn't work well for us.
I can imagine. You do not do traditional work camping jobs, though. You are self-employed. Is your wife still a remote worker?
No, when we started, she was a remote worker for a Silicon Valley company. And she worked what would be considered traditional hours, sometimes maybe more. She was able to do some things, maybe off hours and schedule things and all. She stopped doing that shortly after COVID started. They went through some changes and things like that. I typically call myself a coach, but I work with leaders and leadership teams of organizations. And so that's my business. A lot of Zoom calls now, obviously, a lot of interacting with people virtually via email. And then that supports that, Greg, I also have a podcast that's titled Seek, Go, Create, the leadership journey that I do from the RV here, do long form interviews there. And then I've also been doing much more writing lately, which is very friendly to do in an RV setting, in my opinion. You could do that almost anywhere. And so those are the primary things I do. Now, my wife, now that she hasn't worked, she actually is an operations expert. So she helps a little bit with some of the things that I do, but she also enjoys some crafts, and she's done some things on Etsy and some different things like that she does virtually, obviously.
But she's not working a traditional work camping job as well, like to get a free RV site, something.
She is not. We have not done the traditional. Always been fascinated by it. It's really a fascinating thing. It's something that we've always kept in the back of our minds. And you and I shared just before we hit click that I'd listened to one of your episodes from a few weeks back, and it intrigued me. And I've reached out to the people because it's a little bit of a different work camping situation that might be a good fit for us. So anyway.
Okay, very good. What are some of the favorite places that you visited?
I tell you what, I've been enjoying Arizona the last couple of winters, especially looking around the rest of the country. We spend a good bit of time in the Black Hills of South Dakota. It's a place, we actually have a membership at a resort up in that area, and we really enjoy it. It's a good place for granddaughters to come visit, and we can set up shop and do our work, but still explore some cool areas up in that part of the country. But I'll tell you, I think one of the most significant things we did, and this was before COVID, we actually spent 9 months in the state of Oregon, and we were originally Southern folks like Atlanta. We grew up, born, all that in the Atlanta area. We probably had all these preconceived notions and biases about Oregon and all this type stuff. Let me tell you what, we spent all up and down the coast. We spent 3 months in Bend, in the Valley area, and we enjoyed the heck out of Oregon for about 9 months. That was beautiful, stunning.
That's one of the best parts about RVing is you can move locations and really immerse yourself into those cultures. And like you said, avoid the tourist days when everybody is out there, and go on Tuesday and visit the tourist attractions.
Yeah, and another thing, Greg, that's interesting, we have been homeless. I sometimes like to come up with a better word like nomading or hoboing. I don't know. Someone called me a hobo one time. I'm not sure that I like that term, hobo. But anyway, we've been doing that now. We haven't had a real physical address. We were briefly in an apartment while we were in Bible school, but going back to 2012, 13 years now. But one of the things we've been considering is getting a piece of property. And one of the things that's fascinating to me is when you live like we live, you could actually really check places out to see if you really like the area, the culture, the weather, the altitude. It's something I'm getting real finicky about now. We spent some time at 9,000 feet in Colorado, and you know what? Beautiful. I love it. Low humidity, awesome in so many ways, but I just don't sleep well at 8,000 feet. And so I try to find places. And so we could just go places and see if we like it before we buy. Try it before you, because a lot of people will just go buy something. And then later they go, you know what? This place has bugs. I wish we had gone to a place that didn't have bugs.
That's what a lot of RVers do is they travel the country for a couple of years, and then during their trip, they find some place that this is really fun. I think I could live here. And they wind up moving back there. What state did you decide as your domicile?
We actually are currently domiciled in South Dakota.
Okay.
We actually domiciled there before we were RVing. We were traveling and doing house sitting, and we were I think we were on the South Island of New Zealand, watching someone's home that had an outdoor cat. There's odd story there. But we got word that we had gotten a letter at my parents or her parents, wherever we had an address or something like that. And they did not think that we were in the state of Georgia enough to be able to vote. It's a humorous thing now, knowing some things we know about how voting works. But my wife got a little bit miffed, and she says, where do, missionaries, RVers, we didn't know much about RVing at the time, truck drivers, where do people like that live? And there were a few states I'm sure that your listeners are probably aware of: Florida, Texas, South Dakota. We loved the thought of South Dakota because you only had to spend the night there one night every 5 years. And so when we got back to the States, we popped up there, went up there, got our license, got an address up there and everything. And so we have now been 10 plus years domiciled in South Dakota. And like I've already mentioned to you a few years ago, right when COVID hit, we decided maybe we should visit there more because they were still open and moving around. And now we actually spend time there. Before that, we would only spend about one night every 5 years.
South Dakota is a very popular state for RVers. Many people are doing that. It's a very popular place to be, especially in the summer. A lot of tourist places up there in the Black Hills that hire tons of work campers. And the best part about work camping up there is that many of the employers will give them what they call as South Hills Park Pass, I believe, or South Hills Pass, which gives them free or discounted admission to hundreds of different events or activities, places, museums, etc. Just because they're working there, they want to spread the word about what other activities are around for people to do.
Yeah, we've hung out with some of those folks there's a place called Hart Ranch that we go to right on the edge of the Black Hills there. And they have a large number of work campers there. And we've actually gone to some of those activities with them, and they've had those discounts and they use them. It's very nice for them to experience all the stuff that's in that part of the country. Those Black Hills is very nice.
How do you select a place that you're going to set up shop for a couple of months?
Boy, that's a great question, Greg. At one point, it was this like, where have we been? Where have we not been? Where do we want to go? I will tell you that now there's two things that factor in more than anything else. Number one, it's proximity to granddaughters. And number two, it's a weather that's friendly to the RV lifestyle. And so those two things, it used to be like, oh, we haven't seen this, we haven't seen that. Now we've explored a good portion. There's only a small segment plus Alaska that we haven't really explored much. And we've got to get up to the Glacier National Park area of Montana and then over to Idaho some. And we might be doing that this summer. But outside of that, it is weather. In fact, I had a client the other day said, Tim, you're becoming a weather snob. I said, you know what? You're right, I am, because I can.
Exactly. You had mentioned to me privately before we started recording how important it was for you to be near an airport. Is that how close to an airport do you have to be?
I don't fly in and out that much. We're recording this, and this weekend I'm going to be flying to Atlanta. And I think I'm flying out of Sky Harbor up in Phoenix, which is not far from where you are. And I'm probably an hour and 15 minutes away. I have been as far as a couple of hours from what would be a major airport. And that's fine by me. I don't travel every week or anything like that, but I've got clients in Atlanta and Ohio, and sometimes you and I met in Sarasota down at a conference, which was awesome. And it's just something, but this is odd. You really can't get too far away from an airport in the United States today. You could look at some places, maybe I'm trying to even think, I mean, you're going to be a couple of hours from some type of airport most of the time. So that's just something that I sort of look at, but it doesn't drive as much as like the weather or something like that.
What about the internet? Has that been a challenge for you?
Oh man, there's never a challenge with the internet, Greg. So when my wife and I started traveling in 2012, 2013, we made the assumption, and we're both fairly technically adept. We're definitely not Luddites. We're very aggressive when it comes to tech and things like that. We assumed that we could pretty much go anywhere in the world, first world type countries, and get relatively decent speeds for the internet. I want to say right here, I was wrong. And so, especially when my wife was on call with her job in Silicon Valley, and obviously when I do video calls and all, it really needs to have good quality and things, Greg. So it was fairly rough. Y'all, anyone who's in a campground setting, y'all know that you really can't count on those. You shouldn't. And so we had AT&T service when we started doing RV. I had a Verizon hotspot that was unlimited that I was able to get. I had a T-Mobile that was unlimited. And when I would pull into a place we had never been before, I would go through this advanced thing where I would turn them on, check speeds. I'd have a video going on YouTube that I would watch how well it did. And I've actually still got that. All of that occurred up until, let's see, what was it, 20 or 21, and Starlink came along. And we were down in Virgin, Utah, and a guy that I knew, fellow podcaster friend and all that kind of stuff, Kevin, all of a sudden I looked up on his roof and he had that Starlink thing. I go, hey, what's going on? He goes, man, I just put this address in and they sent it to me. And so I didn't even let him finish. I went back, put it in, and I had it within a short period of time. So I am now 4 years with Starlink. I move it around various places up on my roof. I've got a little cord that comes in with the router in here. And I'm saying all this because someone needs to hear this probably. And 99% of the internet that I have used in the last 4 years have been via Starlink. Every once in a while, if I get a hiccup or trees are covering something, I'll go to maybe the Verizon hotspot or something. I've still got those as backups. But Starlink has changed quite a bit, and it continues to get better and improve, and places get crowded, and they keep raising the price and different things like that. But it is an extremely valuable tool for what we do.
What is the price for service per month now for Starlink?
So this is a little bit of I could be stating something wrong. I was grandfathered in on a $90 a month deal because it was permanent residence ones. I never changed when they started going to the more mobile plans because I don't move around every weekend. I would just go into the app and change my address. And because it was like 4 months, 3 months, 6 months, but just 2 months ago, they sent me something. They said, hey, because I'm in a high speed area, there's a lot going on, which obviously a lot of snowbirders here. They raised mine up to $120 a month. And I don't know about some of the other plans or anything like that, so I'm no expert on that. But I'll tell you, if you need internet for what you do, if you FaceTime with family or grandkids or any of those things, it's worth it. It works well. Customer service is great. And you just pull it out of the box. If you've got a line of sight to the northern sky, you can get internet pretty well.
I've heard no complaints at all about anybody who has ever used Starlink. So that is good advice. You do have to buy the equipment up front, and that can be a hefty price. Is that right? Something like $500?
It can. I think it was around 400 when I got it, and I think it's 500, and now they've got bigger dishes and things like that. I want to mention one other thing, though, because I think this is important for anyone that might be work camping. If you are just getting on the campground web service, they do have levels of security, but truthfully, I am not comfortable doing my banking, purchasing things, putting in credit card information and all with something that there could be 400 other people that are accessing. They've got security measures in place, but I just feel a little more comfortable using my dedicated internet service. I think it could save you a tremendous amount of headache in the future if you go ahead and spend that money and have that. I think it's in 2025, I think it's something that you just have to have.
When I was full-time RVing in 2014 to 2017, I was paying easily $400 to $500 a month for internet service, cellular connections, etc. So I think whatever you're paying for Starlink, to have it ready whenever you need it is just great, because the problem a lot of RVers have is they rely on the campground connections, which may work Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, but when everybody shows up on Friday, then the speed goes way down, then everybody hits the local cell tower, and that speed goes way down too. So Starlink sounds like a really good idea. And you don't have a problem with it because you're obviously doing a podcast and things like that. So it must be able to handle large files too.
I have rarely had an issue. In fact, Greg, there's been times where I've been interacting or interviewing someone who's on, I know, a fixed high-speed internet, and my internet's working just fine, and I've got a Starlink on my roof, and they supposedly have high-speed fiber internet, and they're having hiccups. Internet's only as good as the weakest link, and I think with Starlink, it could work well for most people if they're needing to do things.
Have you faced any other challenges on the road?
The challenge that I'm having right now that I haven't had in a long time is I am desiring more quiet, fixed studio space. I do video and audio with our podcast. I'm writing quite a bit, and I'm really wanting maybe office space. I've looked at some office space in some of the campgrounds or the resorts. We stay in typically more resorty type places, actually. And some of those, there's options, but it's not fixed. And there's co-working spaces and things like that. So it actually has us, I shared this right before we hit record, it has us looking at some possible property and then maybe getting a small space, and then we would still probably do some travel, but it would probably cut out a season of travel is probably what it would do, especially if we got something down in Arizona, or if it was in South Dakota, we wouldn't spend we would spend the off season somewhere else simply. But that's about it. I'm real compact in our space. Some people say, oh, I need a lot more space. I've got about 5 or 6 black t-shirts, and this is a sweatshirt I'm wearing now, and that's all I need. I'm not a fashion dog or anything like that I need to look super duper. I've just settled in, and my wife claims she would like a dishwasher, but I keep reminding her that she has one, and the dishwasher's named Tim, and he washes all the dishes every evening, and I think we're good.
That's right. What's on your bucket list? What are some places that you'd still like to get to? You'd mentioned Alaska.
We were going to do Alaska as we headed into 2020. And obviously things changed, and could we get across Canada? And we also aren't sure. Our rig is sturdy and we love it and all that, but it may not be the type rig to do that in. And so we have checked off we've touched foot in every state except for Alaska. And so, Greg, one of the things we're just talking as a couple, so we want to RV there. We're not this, we got to RV every state. No, there's some states we've flown into, some we were there years ago after we got married and all that. We actually are considering doing a cruise to Alaska just to check it off our list and see some things. And we've never experienced, we've heard great things about those. I'm not a huge cruise person, and so we're actually considering checking off Alaska via a cruise. So you got any thoughts on that? You ever done that yourself?
I have been up to Alaska once. I went up to interview a dealer who rented RVs, and then he lent me one of the Class C motorhomes to use for a week, and I got to tootle around and check things off. Kodak moment around every corner. Everybody needs to go to Alaska, but that is another option that a lot of RVers seem to do, is to fly up there, then rent an RV for a couple of weeks to see if they like it and whether they want to come back up for an entire season or something like that. Then they would drive up. And
I kind of like the Class C option too. It's just smaller and easier to get around than this big old thing. I love our RV, but it's a tank.
It is.
It's It's a big old huge box, nothing aerodynamic about it. I feel most every bump that's on the road, and I'm just not sure I would want to do that in Alaska.
But you don't have to worry about not getting into national parks because most of the time you are doing the resorts. You're using that as your base. So if there are any national parks where you are, you're staying at the RV and then driving to them. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah, we jump into our little mini SUV car, and that's what we'll go visit and do our shopping, and we'll go to places and do things in our small car, which is good.
How many kids do you have?
We have 2 grown children. We have a daughter and her family and all is in Colorado Springs. And you'll dig this, our son is 30. I think that's right. He might be 31. So anyway, I'll get corrected, I'm sure. He's 30 and he lives in his Class C motorhome after we started doing a few years ago. He was in Europe at the time. He does photography and he's somewhat of a influencer on Instagram and does branding and things like that. And so he's been doing this for right at 5 years, and he's about 20 minutes from us here in Arizona right now. So he's a full-time RVer, and he's been doing it for almost as long as we have.
That's
and
cool.
He's a motorcycler, so his is different. He pulls a trailer with his motorcycle or motorcycles. He had 2. He stored one now. And so when he pulls in somewhere, he parks and all that, and then he travels around on his motorcycle.
That's cool. So when you go to visit your daughter, do you take your RV with you or do they come to visit you?
They come to visit us is one thing we did find our kids. We thought it would be tough when we traveled, but they find us, especially when we're in cool spots they want to come to. She currently is in Colorado Springs, and Greg, you'll get a kick out of this. She lives in the Springs, in town, and there's an alley behind her house, and the width of their lot is about 45 feet. And so I pull in the alley at the back end of their property, and I can do a little bit of back and forth and parallel park at the very back of their property on the alley. And then we run an extension cord, so I snag a little bit of power, and we're not boondocking, but we're also not full hookup either. And so when we go there for a few weeks, I'm having to tell my wife, it's okay. We need to go to the restroom and shower up in the main house. We could do a few things here. We've got electricity to run the fridge and a few things, keep the devices charged, but we can't be cranking on the air and all that. So we hang out at their place, but still sleep in our own bed.
Okay. They actually have a word for that. It's called mooch docking.
It is mooch docking. I was going to use that term, but I don't know that I like that term as much. but that's kind of what it is. They're actually about to move, and so it's probably going to change that arrangement, which is fine. I didn't like being in town and right there, and anyway.
It's still nice that you have your own place when you're there, so you're not as disruptive to their family routine. You still have Grandpa and Grandma's RV. You can go hang out there for a while and then come in and take a shower when everybody's off to work and school, and nobody's really bothered by it. But that's another big
it works out really well. And I still have space to do exactly what I'm doing right here, which is my podcast and stuff like that. And we could generate enough electricity to do that from the plug.
If you had to start over again, is there anything differently that you would do in RVing?
That is a really good question. I don't know if anyone's ever asked me that. And there is one thing that I would do differently. We gutted our RV, Greg, and my wife. We were down in South Florida when we gutted it. So the temperatures were warm. There was some humidity and all of that. And we went to a flooring place, and she picked out the floor for the RV. And it was a very nice flooring. It was pretty pricey, but because we didn't have much square footage, it didn't cost that much. And it had the cork on the bottom, and it snapped together and all this kind of stuff. Greg, we put it all in, and it looked fantastic. It was beautiful, and I had the slides up. I was figuring stuff up as I went. I wasn't experienced and all that, but I'm going, man, we did a really good job. So we were still finishing up Bible school up in Colorado, and we drove it up there. And we drove it up to Colorado and parked it. And within a few nights, the temperatures got below freezing. And I went and looked out at the RV. We were in an apartment at the time, finishing up our stint there. I went out and all of my flooring was just sticking straight up in the air because hot, cold anyway. So my biggest regret, and my wife says, boy, can we just go ahead and fix the flooring? I know I messed up and all that. We've been 6 years now where we've managed the flooring, put a few rugs down and then secured it and all that. But I would have done a different flooring. That's my biggest regret. I did not think about the changes in temperatures that could impact these RVs.
Okay. So the specific type of flooring you put in, is that what it was? That wasn't really made for RV use?
I don't think so. The lady at the flooring place in South Florida said, oh yeah, it'll work. Had we stayed in South Florida, it probably would have.
That's right.
When things start getting cold, they expand. And then when they get warm, they shrink and expand and shrink. And if you have snap together type flooring, it can't handle that expanding and shrinking.
That's right. Do you have any advice for people who are considering becoming work campers, even though they have a business of their own, that you would give them as far as hitting the road?
This is one of the things I work with leaders in companies and organizations, Greg, and I'll say it even for this. If there is any way to try something before you totally throw yourself into it, I would even back up and say that as far as RVing. I'm sure you interact with a lot of people that they're retiring or they're going through some type of change and they want to sell their home, get rid of their stuff, buy or finance an RV, get a new truck, and then start work camping. All of that to me is a little too much for many people to do over a short period of time. I would say if you are able, and I think there's opportunities like this available, you would know because you're the expert in this area. If there's a way that you could possibly rent or borrow an RV for a month, maybe find a place that would let you pseudo work camp or help someone or be an apprentice or try it 200 miles from where you live, I would enjoy it if people would try things before they dove totally into it, because I'm sure you've seen it. So many people go through this long process and then 6 months in, they go, you know what? I don't like it. I don't like being this close to my husband or something like that. And so if you could try something before you do it, and I believe there's always ways of doing that, I think that would be a good piece of advice. What are your thoughts?
I think that's a great idea. We've heard of people recommending renting an RV for a while and trying it a bit. And then somebody just recently, within the last couple of months, came up with this idea of renting an RV from a private renter, and they will actually take it to the campground and set it up for you. So all you have to do is go there and use the shower and try and figure out the workspace and things like that without even having to drive it. If you just wanted to try whether you could live in an RV as a couple for a couple of weeks, that would be a low-cost way to do it.
And one of the things that we've seen, this is a fascinating concept. I didn't know this existed. We've seen a number of RV parks and or resorts that have storage facilities that a lot of people just store RVs there and they have them pulled out when they show up. One of them that we stay at up in South Dakota is this way. And some of these people will rent those out or loan them out or whatever. And you don't even have to try to drive a 40-something foot, which is a little bit intimidating if you've never done it. And you could show up and just try out the RV lifestyle. That's what I really wish more people would try it out a little bit before they just go all in, because I think it puts a lot of stress on relationships and maybe even the finances too, especially these people that finance their new RV and they get in their rig and then they've got this punch list of things because things aren't working. Well, that's one of the reasons we bought a used one, because I said, you know what? I think if anything has gotten the kinks worked out, this one should have. And we were right. It did.
That's right. That is good advice too, to buy used rather than new. And excellent. How can people get in touch with you if they'd like to connect with you? Just get your coaching services either.
Yeah, there are a couple ways. Easiest way is timwinders.com. It's Tim and then WINDERS.com. They could find me with coaching. They could get my books there. I've written a novel, just finished up a secondary novel that goes with that. And there's in the inspirational leadership, spiritual journey type there. It's a novel with purpose is what I call it. And then I think what some people, it's called Coach, A Story of Success Redefined. That's the big novel. And the one I just finished up that's available, but it's called The Visit. And it's a follow-up 5 years later to that novel. But I think if people are right here, the best way to connect with me is to jump over on their podcast platform and look for Seek, Go, Create, those 3 words, Seek, Create. We do talk about some of the things with our lifestyle there, but it's a good bit about leadership. And I interview a lot of authors and people that are business owners and things like that, and mindset and all of those things. Long form interview. I think that might be cool if somebody jumped over there and checked that out too.
I'm assuming you're on LinkedIn. Are you also involved in other social media?
I am on LinkedIn as Tim Winders, and we are Seek, Go, Create everywhere.
Okay.
We've got a YouTube channel with over 1,000 videos over on YouTube. And I've got the pages for Seek, Go, Create on LinkedIn, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, X, whatever we call it now, and
Instagram,
YouTube, all of those.
Okay.
Instagram. Yeah. I was forgetting one.
Wonderful. This has been great, Tim. I really appreciate you sharing your advice and your story with us. It sounds like you have adopted to the RV lifestyle rather well and are really enjoying the experience of being able to live in different places several times every year.
Yes, we are loving life and enjoying the lifestyle. And I would just encourage anybody just to embrace it. If they're feeling nudged, go ahead and take a few steps and see how it works out for them.
Tim Winders is a great example of how modern technology and purpose-driven mindset can open up incredible lifestyle opportunities for people who want to work while traveling. Tim earns a living by coaching business leaders, writing inspirational fiction, and hosting his podcast titled Seek, Go, Create, The Leadership Journey. With clients located across the country, Tim frequently conducts Zoom meetings from his customized office space inside their motorhome. His wife, an operations expert, occasionally helps with the back end of his business, but also enjoys doing crafts and running a virtual Etsy shop. Together, they built a lifestyle around flexibility, purpose, and simplicity. He especially appreciates the freedom to stay close to their granddaughters and to follow good weather, becoming what he jokingly refers to as a weather snob. Because his business requires Tim to travel, they also keep proximity to airports in mind when choosing where to park next. Reliable internet is a must for Tim, and after trying all the traditional hotspots, he now relies almost entirely on Starlink for his connectivity needs. He credits his satellite service with giving him the bandwidth he needs to coach clients, record high-quality podcast interviews, and stay in touch with family. Tim offered some wise advice to anyone considering the RV lifestyle or work camping as a career change. Try it out first. Before selling a home and diving in head first, rent or borrow an RV and spend a few weeks in it, and even apprentice at a work camping job to see how it fits your lifestyle and personality. If you'd like to connect with Tim, learn about his coaching services, or explore his novels, visit his website at www.timwinders.com. You can also find his podcast, Seek, Go, and Create, on every major platform, and follow him under that business name on LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. Today's episode was sponsored by Workamper News. Wouldn't it be nice if work camping job listings for your ideal location just appeared in your email inbox? They can when you're a member of Workamper News. Join Workamper today to start using the best toolkit for finding your next work camping gig. When they turn on job alert emails, members can select to receive help wanted ads for just one state or all the states they want to work in. Each email contains the full ad text, so there's no need to have to click on a link, go to a website, then hunt around for the ad to see if the job even interests you. The job finding process is easier with Workamper News. Join today at www.workamper.com. That's all for this week's show. Next week, I'll be talking to a work camping couple who funded their lifestyle by conducting RV inspections. I'll have that interview on the next episode of The Workamper Show. Thanks for listening, and if you like these interviews, please consider leaving a review wherever you download the episodes.